Today is the day where E4M, we have the Confluence followed by the ACE Awards. So I think this is probably one of the days in E4M's very busy calendar where we can actually talk about agencies. So I think it's really agency day today. So I think it's a good time to really introspect. And the topic I've been given is how leaders can equip their teams with the skills and tools needed to thrive in a digital first world. And if you have to look at the sponsors and everything around here, it is indeed a digital first world. So, at this point in time, I thought, let's think a little deep into this. Because the reality is that we are at a crossroads. Agencies are at a crossroads. In the last 10 years, some big, huge behemoths have sort of those names, they don't exist anymore. At the same time, you've got a bunch of smaller agencies built on algorithms, data, and tech, which are actually doing pretty well. So in all of this, it actually becomes, or it behoves, a CEO to actually introspect. And whatever I've sort of thought about over the last maybe 3-4 days to put this thing together, I'm probably talking as much to myself as to all the other leaders in this room. So, I'm going to start by actually seeing that what exactly has really changed in the lives of us agencies and the entire media world. And I'll just try to take the top 4 or 5 big themes that I've seen. We are advertising agencies, right? So what we used to do was advertising. We used to create advertising and then the media used to place it so that people get to see it. Now, of course, things have changed a whole lot more. In addition to advertising, you have the entire social media, the entire creator content marketing piece, you've got the performance marketing piece, and you've got the entire marketplace or e-commerce marketing that we have to do. So this sort of suggests that is the word advertising agency still, does it do the job? I think it's probably better to say branding and performance at this point in time, but let's let that be a placeholder. But the fact remains, things have changed and the very nature of what we do has changed. The other is that, there was this entire time in consumer journey, of course, we all now know the IDA model is completely dead. There was a time when Google tried to come out with a customer decision journey, which I think was meant for autos, but they talked about preliminary evaluation phase and then buying and then post-purchase. So there was one thing that didn't last too long. Now Google is calling something a messy middle, and they probably feel that there is so much data hanging around that people can take cognitive shortcuts and make purchase decisions. But whatever the point is, that for all of us in media agencies, whether it's the linear advertising, whether it's the entire piece, whether you have the Google kind of scenarios or the Meta kind of scenarios or the Amazon and the marketplace kind of scenarios, you have to pretty much see where the consumer is going and be in a position to use each and every touch point to achieve a certain outcome. This has certain implications. Not the least, what we're finding is, and I think anybody in this world, in this room, who's actually talking with clients, advertisers are increasingly telling you that my marketing investments need to deliver results. There used to be the faith that people used to have in marketing for many, many years. So it would, yes, I have my faith, I'm doing it, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but somewhere my measures will go up, somewhere it's going to happen over time. They were more patient about it, and there was a faith. Now, I think with the advent of performance, triggered by that really, people can see outcomes, and therefore the pendulum has probably even moved a little bit more in that direction. For all of us in the room who feel building brands also is something a little bit more than performance in e-commerce marketing, I certainly do. We can't stay away from the fact that we do have to show, even in branding, how it's actually showing results on the consumer. So somewhere along the line, however, the fact is that there are people the short-termism is not going to go away. And to that end, we'll have to see how to navigate. Fortunately, help is at hand. So in the past, when we used to look at market mix modeling, which was pretty much on the base of multivariate statistical techniques, which would get us the interplay between variables. Now we don't understand the interplay between the variables very much, but if you use Google's Meridian or Meta's Robin, you can actually do predictive real-time sort of modeling, which actually doesn't care so much as the interplay as much as what does it take to deliver the final outcome. So people are telling you that these things are available. And the last big trend that I'm seeing is that buying has changed fundamentally. Earlier we used to talk about reserving price. Well, in digital also you can reserve price. I think they call it programmatic guarantees. But at the same time, earlier you used to reserve space. So at any, you would go in and take a front page ad on Times of India or a slot on Anupama in Star Plus. But now the entire thing is happening in digital where you're ad serving it, and the entire process of implementation is not reservation but programmatic. This has in fact changed the entire nature of being of buyers, and where scale and clout used to have a high amount of leverage, that is now coming under question. With this kind of a setup, these are the kind of skills that probably are required for when a leader looks back at his agency, for his agency to succeed in today's world. You've got to be adept at branding, performance, e-commerce, and as well as the entire social content piece. You've got to learn how to now plan and execute across video, text, sound, image, and experiential rather than TV, newspapers, radio. It's now become more the sound, the medium around which you have to plan. You have to set and achieve outcome KPIs, especially for branding, because now that's the only way people will put money behind it. Big tech is giving you some absolutely brilliant ways of actually reaching out to consumers and getting results. And you have the ability, and a lot of the people who are sponsoring out here are building tech to work on big tech's tech to actually get a better way of optimizing, allocating, and getting attribution from the inventory that we place. You also have the entire way of making use of real-time data, making it an integral part of planning. And now you've got to figure out how to make a media buyer, how does he come to the party in the digital environment. Now, this is the challenge. I'm going to, in the next, I have 12 minutes. So I am going to now go one by one and across 8 points and say, this is what I think that the CEO needs to do. The first one I think the CEO needs to understand is, what is the playing field? What should I be working on? I sense, according to me, there are 8 skills which are really required from everything that we've said. There's the entire comms planning, which is always there, but now it's just become a whole lot more integrated across online and offline. There's performance marketing and e-commerce marketing, which I'm right now treating in 2 distinct buckets because it requires slightly different skills. The entire social creator content piece is another bucket. Buying basically booking price the way we used to, whether it's online, offline as one, and the entire RTB buying, which is the entire machine-led bidding-based buying. Those are 2 kind of things. And then you have the entire offline implementation, you've got the programmatic implementation, and then you've got the entire full funnel analytics. These arguably are 8 practices somebody has to probably do in an agency. There are some agencies who feel that I will be a specialist and I will only do 1, 2, or few of these, and some who believe there's going to be an integrated game. Both models exist. My bias is that in the long term, if you can crack the integrated one, you're going to succeed more. Clients do want one person who can do everything, but it's a tough ask to get all these kind of specialisms. It takes time to build them, and it's not an overnight job, and it requires huge amount of effort. But the ones who play this course and get it, there's a pot of the gold at the end of them for them. Now, the second one, I'm saying that the CEO needs to know the language if they want to walk the talk. And this is coming into, actually, this is for people like me. Look, I am what? I'm not even a Gen X, I'm a baby boomer. I'm a baby boomer who has to work in agency, which is definitely is now tilting more towards Gen Z than millennials. Yes, so I think yes, a center of gravity would be more around Gen Z. In this environment, can I afford to say that, something, I leave digital to other people? The reality is that the nuts and bolts and actual working of the tools, of course, you have to leave to the younger people. They're natives, they understand it. But if I don't know the language myself, then I'm going to actually not be a very effective leader. And this, again, is a contentious piece. There are models where CEOs come in with domain knowledge and CEOs who come in with very good management skills, but without domain knowledge. I am actually of the point of view that not unlike lawyers, architects, financial analysts, the client in our game is also looking at somebody who understands the entire media environment and who can actually help them decode and navigate the brand through this entire high flux, very, very volatile digital kind of environment that we are right now in. So I am actually coming of the point of view that CEOs need to upskill to actually make the world meaningful for the rest of the team. The third point, I think, is in today's day and age, more than ever before, the talent pool has become heterogeneous. It is more heterogeneous today than ever before. And I think subcultures are to be cherished, but at the same time, then you need a certain way forward on how to start working. And I don't have a silver bullet on this one, but I have some common sense tips. I believe we should now, for all new talent, we should start young and start digital. In general, just in digital, I'm saying from the standpoint of today, everything is digital, whether it's creative, whether it is analytics, whether it is normal comms planning, whether it's buying. Digital is now the way we work. It's part of our day-to-day life. So just make sure that the guys that you're getting are adept and really looking forward to doing that. So I think this becomes a prerequisite. The other, I believe, is that it's pretty much a CEO's job and an ExCo's job. Too many agencies have left talent acquisition to maybe people who are 7, 8 years into the experience, but I think it needs to now push up. Because I've realized that people typically try to get more of the same. So if they are used to a certain kind of the comfort zone, if they are of a particular profile, they like to see more of themselves. I think at this point in time, some kind of change has to be brought in, and I think needs senior people, the ExCo of an agency, to actually be involved in hiring. The other point on this one is, I've always believed, of course, after basic intellect and so on and so forth, hire for attitude and train for skill. It's so much more difficult to try to, if a person's attitude is not right, not much you can do. So that's where I think the training piece comes in. And on the training piece, you must have a very strong learning and development agenda to actually upskill them with all the things that we were talking of earlier, those 7, 8 things that we were talking about. That should become actually the onus of the agency to say that I'm going to build this kind of skill in my person who's coming in. I'll be remiss if I don't talk about our existing talent. They probably are our most valuable valuable asset. They understand your agency, you've got loyalty from them, and they've actually served us very well all these years. I think it's incumbent on us as leaders to actually go and upskill the old talent, so to speak, who may not have been born in a digital game. And I think the very first thing that you have to do is, whether it's a planner or a buyer, just move them in a way where they can also start planning through the line, both online and offline. I've seen it work. I've seen when I was doing a global job in one of the markets, they took print planners and they told them to actually taught them the basics of online buying, and they found that they could bring in so much more of their skills as a print planner when it came to buying with online publishers. That was still the reservation pricing or programmatic guarantee pricing time, that I'm talking 10, 11 years back. But the fact still remains that these people have got a lot of tricks up their sleeves. And if you skill them, you can actually be the better for it. Second is, okay, the next one is, now this one, you say why we're putting the marketing principles piece up front. One of the things I've observed is that over the last, 25 years, I think the knowledge of marketing and building brands has come down. At least I joined this industry because I had a passion for brands. I wanted to build brands. So you've got to understand what exactly does it take to build a proposition, a brand proposition that is relevant, distinctive, and has the ability to connect with the consumer. What does it take to build equity? What is the entire link about sales along with all the way you build to get the awareness, distribution, how to build trial, how to build retention, how do you get the price to move up? There are certain principles that go behind all of these things. At least when I interview some of the younger kids today, or I even see in my own agency, I find that some of these fundamentals are not that strong. Even the media planning principles, I find people are right now not as strong. If I have to find out a simple thing, if I ask an average Joe between, frequency, average frequency, effective frequency, discrete frequency, they may not know. Now, to my mind, that is an absolute no-no. In my book, I get violent. I get violent if I find something as basic as this, people don't know. But the reality is, they don't. In an environment where algorithms and just models come in, you put in an input, get an output, and throughput you have absolutely no idea on, that is actually setting yourself up for mediocrity. You're suspending your intelligence to models. So I think focusing on principles becomes a very big job of building principles for a CEO. That said, while marketing principles might remain inviolate, methods are changing. I think a CEO must go and tell each and every person in his organization, question status quo. Just look at the way things have changed in our own lives in media. At one time, what? Media used to be what? Just a distribution pipe in which you place ads, right? So that people can see them. Now it's a retail point. Now it is, in fact, the entire message itself, in a very profound sense. We talk in the Instagram language. Now, what is creative, what is media, it's all blurring. So if just like that, no, take another one. We used to talk about what? A target audience. You have a cohort or you have a TG or a whatever else you might say. You target your message to them and try to elicit a response. Now you're reaching a stage where you're sending out a broad signal, just broad targeting. Send a message to everybody, read signals, and then feed it back to the AI engine and see what magic they can do. Fundamentally changes what the scope of segmentation and targeting is. Look at creative. Brand assets used to be one of the things that a brand manager would guard with his life. You can't change anything on this particular creative. You have to have these colors, this font size, this is what you can say about the brand, this is what you can't. It used to be so regimental. And now what? Brands are relinquishing control to creators. They are letting them say something about as precious about your brand, you're letting that control go. The apps, all the holy cows are right now actually changing and being broken. So this is something which a good CEO or a leader should actually encourage his people and say, listen guys, the methods, there is madness, and now it's up to you to go into the methods, totally break it up and come out with something new. Sorry. I lost my signals here. As we talked about the entire, 8, 9 centers of excellence that we have, the irony of the matter is that in an environment where the consumer is totally connected, they very happily go from watching TV, reading a newspaper to going online, consuming something there, and then shopping online, and whatever have you. The reality is that a large number of agencies are still operating in silos when you have to actually deal with this journey. And this, I think, is pretty crazy. It's also one which is not that easy. Because if you have to sort of work, because bear in mind that the expertise areas are separate, the sub-tribes are different. Now, how do you get them together? In the old days, in a full-service agency, as they used to call them, there used to be the account servicing guy who used to be the single point, who used to bring all the aspects of the agency together. In our case also, it's also in media. It is pretty much a planning guy who's playing the servicing role. Now, I think we have to now build in systems where there's joint KPIs, the entire hybrid planners, incentivizing collaboration, and just persevering. The point out here is don't let go. This is the one, it's, we see it all the time, don't you see it? Right now, the cricket team, when they're on strong, everybody says it's a team game and they were just so too good. Now, what happened? In the last one with New Zealand, we got a whitewashing 3-0. Bowlers came to the party, batsmen didn't. What happened? Somewhere along the line, the team didn't, and you could see it. You could see the entire team work was actually disintegrating. I love test matches more than maybe T20s, and I saw a disintegration of a team happening. The power of a team is immense, and if we don't get it, we've lost it. This is when this is how buying has to come into the party. As a media buyer, right through, Ashish may not like it, but we used to believe that we used to at least come in and demand accountability, and it always used to be across the table, and we used to actually get accountability from a media owner, and it was a to and fro, it was a discussion. In today's day and age, big tech is pretty much driving all the agenda in media. You use their data to pay their bills, and even if you ask questions about was the viewership kosher, was it above or below the fold, was it for 1 second or 3 seconds or 10 seconds, all of those things are met with some degree of passive resistance. Now, the reason why agencies have been there is to bring objectivity and to bring accountability. Somewhere along the line, I think agencies have to lift up their lot and actually in a digital environment get the same accountability from the digital sort of media as in the past. It's been done in a very proactive, in a very productive way with be it TV, be it print, be it radio, and all the others that have happened. So I think this is one area where we just have to work. And finally, to close, I think it's becoming, there are two ways in which an agency can run. Agency is a very chaotic place, right? There's one way is you come into an office every morning, start responding to client briefs or client challenges, and next thing you know is it's just a madhouse out there. You're just going one thing after the other, and there's never a dull moment, but there's total chaos, and it's very exhausting. I think the one thing, and there are very few people who have to do this, but the CEO or the leader is the guy who has to actually proactively see what exactly do I need to do to get some amount of sanity and fun into the entire organization. And I think it comes on the back of, I've taken a balanced scorecard approach. So there is going to be a financial goals. In financial goals, you've got to go as granular as possible. Everything that makes money, all those 8 practices, just make sure you're able to get, whether you're talking billing, whether you're talking revenues, whether you're talking profits, get to each one of them and get your goals out from there. I think on the client side, you've got to go more than just billing and revenues from clients. I think you've got to go much more into what is the problem that you're solving for the client. And if you can deliver the outcomes and if you can have a very clear idea of the value that you're being able to bring, you'll be actually able to derive that value. Otherwise, we'll be seen to be a sweatshop just who are executing plans. When clients see what is the kind of deliverable you're doing in terms of solving the problems, I think on the processes pieces, the goals in today's environment have to be use technology to make anything that is or can be automated, you must automate. Errors will go, time will come down, cost will come down. That you must do. Invest, also take the technology, use that to make sure that you're also able to move the product and the partnerships up to deliver better results. What that needs to be, the CEO needs to work with his A team and actually then develop that agenda. And finally, and not the least, from an organizational standpoint, Look, finally, you've got to have an agency that's fun to work in, right? You don't want to be a sweatshop. You don't want to be a stress pressure cookers environment. And that will happen when all of these things are working in sync together. So somewhere, if you can create an organization that is nurturant, empower the people to do their own work, don't have rework, don't have places where there's also duplication of work, clear feedback mechanisms, good amount of training, and overall a fun. Take the stress out of the organization. If these some of things you can put down, and actually put down as a business plan, I think you're there. So, what does the leader do in this entire age of a digital world? Essentially, I started off, I don't think I can equip them too much with tools and skills. That's what the title said. It really requires some good commonsensical thinking. I think you need to contextualize marketing for them in today's age, and you've got to tell them the bigger cause of what the brand is all about. You've got to then actually try to make sure that you take the right strategic calls, whether it is specialist or integrated. What exactly is the area when you're walking the talk? What aspects of digital you really want to be going and not doing? Just make sure that the entire talent pool is completely sort of in sync with the outside environment. Reinforcing marketing principles, entire contextualizing piece. Question status quo. Ask them to change the methods. This is where all the changes are happening, innovation is happening. Encourage that. Break the silos, form teams. Buying. This is the part where your leadership metal is going to be counted, because you have to come out with something which demands accountability from some very, very powerful sort of media owners. And in the sense, final, in the sum, you actually put together a game plan or goals for your organization, which actually creates a very nurturant and in general happy organization to work in. So that was my little bit. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.